Hello, everyone. This is Michael at Borjomi. I've just prepared some tea and coffee. It was very cold at the Airbnb host came up, and we had a problem with the Wi-Fi. I had a problem with the Wi-Fi. They didn't have a problem with the Wi-Fi. It's only on this device that I'm using right now. The issue is simply two parts, in my opinion, the way I see it. But I should preface it and say that there's been a lot of problems with censorship in the United States regarding internet platforms. And in the past, about 2 years ago, there were heavy problems for a couple of days here with what was really looking like very strongly intentional attempts at censorship. When I was talking about some topics that I'd actually asked by some people very close to the government here not to speak about. At least not in a negative way, not in a derogatory way. So in that case, I had also gotten a couple of threats through email that were based, or at least appeared to be based, out of the United States, and likely they were. In that case, they looked very much like it would be people with intimate knowledge of extended family back home. In fact, it might have been extended family back home. It's hard to tell, and that's the thing with the internet. We never know if it's, especially in my situation, if it's a mimic, a mimic of say for example, some intelligence agency or some rogue element of somebody that thinks they are and maybe they're really not, that kind of thing. Because in my case, that would be actually, I've met someone like that before that, for example, was an investigative journalist that did work, was a U.S. Army scout before, and all this kind of stuff like that, that did work with people as far as, within the government, or actually claimed to, and probably had those kind of contacts. Regardless, the point is this. The point is that it's not fantasy thinking or illusion. In my particular case, given the types of videos and the types of things that I've covered as a journalist or as a photographer, as a filmmaker in the past, events or documentary, either one, to make that presumption. However, in this case, the message actually came onto Facebook, and the message was that in uploading photos and films from yesterday at the park, there were consistent messaging of that there are delays in the network. It's a network problem. So it would mean that it's the internet or the Wi-Fi. However, the laptops, no problem on the laptop. No problem on it. So that got a little strange. So then we just concluded that likely it was because of the size of the file. And but it's ironic because when we read a report on civil, that's civil.ge, a report on human rights, and I think the IRI is mentioned, the Institute, or the International Republican Institute, which I filmed them over at Ilya State University late last year. Was invited on an event there, and got permission to film that. So, but the human rights record here, especially when it comes to media suppression, also if you mention Amnesty International Human Rights Report on Georgia 2019, as far as, once again, on the media expression here, or issues of media. Also, there was an article posted to Facebook, passed over to Facebook by a female TV journalist here. She's with the TV media as a journalist and reporting on news, and it was on the same topic. So when you get in that position, when your own device is saying to you again and again, look, it's a network problem and it's not going up and all this stuff like that, you just think, oh shit, it could be. We have these problems on Facebook that have been addressed by, or in social media that has been addressed by the President of the United States and signing an executive order. And there's articles out now saying that Facebook itself is ready to completely block certain individuals if the elections get out of hand in the United States. That's not exactly how they say it, but I'm going to paraphrase it and say it like that. So, but what I take away from this experience is that I'm reminded, staunchly reminded, not to trust exactly what those tech messages or what the internet social media messages or the tech messages actually are. I'm seeing new messages on Facebook that I've never seen before. On one page there comes those, on another page they don't. On one page the activity is quite different than on another page, including the notifications. So with all of that in mind, I'm staunchly reminded not to trust even the messages from Facebook itself, because those can be absolutely misleading and wrong. There was nothing wrong with the Wi-Fi other than the typical fact that, at least in this location, because of the file size or the amount of photos and videos I was going to upload, presumably that would be the explanation in the message given. But it looked to me like it could be a form of censorship, because that is such a bad experience that I've had in a couple of past times, and it's also a very hot topic in our media, both in the United States and as far as executive orders signed and recent news articles within the last few days and this last week on that very topic. So when you're getting the message that it's delays in the network, and when you're keeping up with that, and when you're unable to even block out the rest, cancel the previous, and let's say upload a normal sized video, that's still something that I'll try to do. And that's one of the reasons I'll be looking at this live stream and see how it uploads. I'm moving the device a little bit to see if I'll get a little bit different light. It's difficult to get the proper light where I'm at, because I'm actually going to be finishing up this coffee and going on down. What's behind me is Borjomi. Down there is the, not just the mountains, but the national park. I got a nice little film clip yesterday of the mountain stream, the water's rustling over the rocks, and got to rest there for a while, laying back on one of the huge flat rocks. This looks like what we would maybe call boulders in the park too, that I filmed yesterday. It's perfect weather right now here, a little breeze coming through. But I'm reminded also, back to the topic of the internet tech, sometimes I get messages about, like in a relationship, and the messages from Russia, and I'm going back quite far in time right now, they were actually delayed. As if though the computer flagged them, and then they were flagged for someone at some office somewhere, some company, or maybe some agency somewhere. I'm talking about in America, and I'm talking about Yahoo email back then, where I was preparing to leave for Russia. And I was communicating with my the girl that I was gonna go who I stayed there and was with for 3 months on that particular trip. So there was a lot of delays on the email, and I mean 4 or 5 hours. So I got to blaming each other for the problem, and it wasn't either one of us being weird or whatever. It was not our anything other than a lack of understanding of technology itself. This was a real phenomenon. This is something that really took place. The delays in email were something that was reminiscent of a couple of years. Well, it would be a year later that I came over here. And when I got over here, they told me about their territorial integrity topic, their Russian military occupation topic. And when I would post about that back then, there were consistent delays to Facebook itself. So they've already stated several times on Facebook on October 1st, they've changed their guidelines and their policies that will come into play, to where a certain set of guidelines, they'll just remove whatever content that is addressed by those issues in the guidelines they keep giving a notice on one Facebook page on October 1st. And we're seeing, again, news about how that if things get out of hand in the United States around the election, campaign coming up around the election time, they will just block certain people on Facebook. So with that said, I am just reminded not to trust the text messages, but it's yet to be seen if this will be considered a situation where it's actually censored or not, or whether it's, because I have seen where videos I notice in Tbilisi, if they were of police or even security police, like on the street, they were incredibly difficult to get uploaded. In at least one situation I can remember over in Tbilisi, I actually filmed police. He came right up where I was at, and they turned abruptly, as if though they were filming me, but they were filming a car behind me, and turned abruptly. And it was almost, it could be questioned, was it an attempted intimidation? Because I talked about filming the police then, and did. And so this video, the last part was if I would have depended only on this device, a device like this, it would have never been fully understood if you watched the film in the first place. Now, Facebook is a witness to this, and a lot of people who would have followed me did follow me back in that time saw this, because the video never fully uploaded from the device. I had to go in and take it directly from the device into the laptop. Now, this is something I had to do last night. I had to, in fact, it wouldn't even work on one. I had to switch it to a new laptop, plug it in, and then transfer all the files over that way. Otherwise, it wouldn't have even transferred. It was showing on another device as empty. And that doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. How can it do that? So I'm not a tech expert. I'm not going to blame everything on this or that or the other. I'm just telling exactly what was going on with the device. But I've seen that happen before. And it was specifically when I'd filmed police, and it would happen on a few other times that I filmed either police or security police. And I had to be very careful and watch every step when taking the device and uploading it, because there were messages coming on offering, to handle it in a different way that would have caused the video to probably be lost forever. My understanding, if I had not have been aware of that, I would have lost the clip itself, the video clip itself. So the only way I got around it was to upload it to the laptop. So it really makes me question, like, what the issue is, because it's definitely only on certain topics that happened. I mean, it was very clearly not normal at all. And again, on that one situation, if you'd not seen the last 40 seconds or a minute and a half, whatever, of that film clip, you wouldn't have understood it. You wouldn't have saw the abrupt turn. You wouldn't have saw the ending of that, me walking away from that encounter with the police. You wouldn't have seen that at all. It wasn't an actual encounter. It was just, it would appear as one, but that's why you had to see it. The quick, as if though he's filming me and coming at me, and then whoosh, turned to the car and was getting the car that was parked where I was walking by. But that was a topic that I'd talked about before ever coming out that day, and those several days I'd talked about the same type of topic. So I really questioned whether it was coincidence. And I have a friend in Tbilisi these last 10 years, and who knows all these stories, a lot more. And there's just too many coincidences for all of these things to be coincidence. In any case, the point that I walk away with this is to be careful with the messages that you get that are automated messages, because there may be a lot more to it. And for example, in this case, saying that it was the delay on the Wi-Fi connection, well, that may not be the case. It could be file size. It could be simply the fact that I tried to upload maybe a number of photos or films at the same time. That could be all that it is. But again, that would appear that they either can't handle that type of bandwidth or volume of video and photos, but I did cancel it out and just go with one video. But so then what causes it to not upload? What's the size? What's the file size? And I guess these are things you have to find out. But it's definitely not working on this device. Now, if I go to the laptop, everything transferred over to that. I'll have to see if it will actually go from the laptop and straight up upload. But I did upload about a 3.5 minute film of the. I think it's about 3.5 minutes. I don't know if it's a minute 40 seconds or about 3.5 minutes, but the film clip of the actual mountain stream, it uploaded just fine on the same Wi-Fi, but from the laptop. That's the difference. And it also reminds me that when you were dealing with the computer stuff.
I'm sorry. One moment, I clean.
Okay? Okay. Sure. Oh, you just want to move like that?
Muito bem. Aha, aí, okay. So, okay.
All the way. So one of the things that I'm reminded of is that you know, when you're working with like this internet, whether it's websites or like eBay or PayPal or maybe Amazon, just whatever you're working with. It can be social media, it can be a video company, a video platform. But what I don't like about those is it seemed to be almost impossible to get any kind of real tech support, especially anybody on the phone, or any real response. But with companies like eBay, which are much more, you know, like seller, customer friendly, customer service is a necessity, and efficient and quick customer service is a necessity. And they got better over the years, and sometimes experiences like I just talked about would work through it. Sometimes it'd be a customer service expert, sometimes it'd be tech support, as in technical expert, or even a security expert. And having you know, the experience of working heavily with that from around 2000, late 2005 into 2006, all the way into around 2015. You know, you get used to being able to call with platforms, seller platforms like eBay or like Amazon. You get used to being able to talk with people live, you know, in a reasonable amount of time. And like I said, customer service expert, security expert, or tech support, any of those types of supports. And you learn by doing, because although there are some very good guidelines and instructions and how to do things, you learn by doing. And I'm reminded of that today by Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's quote, that in a couple of quotes, because he's very much emphasizing financial education. His father was like an administrator over education, you know, over the schools. And so he's real heavy on financial education, which he learned through his father, that the modern day education system in America, in the high schools and universities, is very, very lacking and inadequate in genuine financial education. And so his quote today, when I was, because I follow him on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, I follow him on the net, and sometimes I'll listen into a radio program of his. And I've only been doing this with regards to following him for the last couple of months or so. But his quote was exactly on this type of topic that I'm talking about right now. You have to have experience with being on the internet. You have to have experience with using the internet. You have to have experience like traveling from one place to another. Like we went into Panama back in the days when the internet there was just being more and more developed. They were putting a large emphasis at that particular time. We arrived at Panama on world tourism, you know, wanting to develop the economies in the rural areas, the areas outside of Panama City, the communities where there was incredible nature, you know, very friendly people there in Panama. And they were trying to develop that infrastructure and that communities to be able to deal with some amount of expats or tourists coming in and, you know, build their economy, you know, to build their tourism business in the rural areas, especially of Panama. And so the internet was still in the stage of, and I'm speaking about 2006, 2007 in Panama, it was still in the stage of development, really, in my opinion. And others can have another opinion, that's fine, and they should, but that's how we learned. I mean, you know, we had to pick up a USB device, we didn't know what that was at the time. We had to use it, you know, we'd go into one internet cafe or another if something wasn't going on with the laptops. I was with Yuli at the time, she had her laptop, I had my laptop, maybe if we were lucky we might have a third one, but most of the time we at least had two. I don't know if we had a third one or not, but it would have been ideal. But you know, the USB port and going and traveling here and there and operating eBay, you know, moving over a course of several years, you know, $60,000 in total of products through eBay. And that's not a lot if you break it down, and we're not talking about profit there, we're talking about in total $60,000 worth of mainly goods, books and CDs mainly, through eBay in that period of time. We started with digital products, you know, that was great. She loved that because the digital downloads, we could take, I started with the focus on religious texts and esoteric texts, and she did a lot of the technical work while I did a lot of that other side of it. And we put together CD compilations, we would have PDFs, we would download sales, and that's back in the day where you could very quickly go in and buy an inexpensive product like an ebook, and maybe it was 99 cents, and suddenly you got a feedback, you gave them feedback, they'd give you feedback, vice versa, and suddenly we had 1,500 feedback. Like in a month or so, in a couple of weeks or so, we had our 1,500 feedback. That really got us boosted and got us off and selling on eBay. That was a little trick that helped us to move very quickly. Plus, there was a lot of texts that were online that were already digitized. So then we were able to take them and put them into PDF and then offer them on a download link. So that's how we got started with eBay. We were pretty low on money at that particular time. And we had just come over here and we were trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do in Georgia? And we were, you know, going to go into the United States, and we eventually did. We went to Panama first and stayed there for 13 months. But because we felt war was coming here, so we left here. And unfortunately, it proved to be absolutely correct and the right thing to do. So we spent our 13 months in Panama before we went together into the United States, and we took a residency there. An official residency. I was on the pensionado program there. I qualified for the pensionado visa in Panama, which had us a discount on almost everything. She had braces put on here for like $400. Panama, she could go in and get a maintenance once or twice a month for like $20 a visit. We got 50% off all of our meals at restaurants, and 50% off on the travel, and it was just an incredible program. But you had to have certain qualifications to be able to, you know, as a foreigner, come in there, as an expat, to come in there and get the pensionado visa. But that's what we did. In fact, I had offered an ebook for years for sale, download on Panama in that program. But a photo book, more or less. It was mainly based on the photos, and it was kind of to smooth over a confrontation that we had with our Mossack Fonseca law firm, which is a Swiss Panama law firm, which is at the center of the Panama Papers. And hello, Gavancha, is a great dancer there. I see that I actually just got a friend ad from her today. There's a few dancers on Facebook. There's one in particular, Lisa Lippertelli. I don't know if I said her name right. It looks like it's her mother that's the main teacher, and maybe her father or another teacher. They were just down at Shekvatelli. There's a girl named Annie that they both did these really short, great films on dance, and I was asking one of them about them because of the view count, because I just qualified my YouTube channel, and I was like thinking, well, what if I could get a video that gets that type of views, and I would pay for that video, but I'm not sure what the, you know, like there has to be some sort of guidelines in terms of like I probably have to have some copy of some ID and some consent form, like a model agreement, photographer agreement, that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's what I was looking at because I've just qualified on YouTube for monetization of the channel, and that's based on the amount of view counts. It's also based on watch hours. Anyway, sorry about that, Galancha. I got off on a little bit of a different topic, but I see that you're a dancer, and I had quite a few dancers on my friends in the past, friends list here on Facebook in the past. In fact, I've got some films on belly dancers and also, of course, the dancers at the clubs, and that's quite different than what a lot of the dancers are doing here in Georgia. But traditional dance too at Imskatoba. There was a couple of different traditional dances, and last year I had the offer to go to Imskatoba with dancers at a cafe, a traditional Georgian dance at Mushtari Park. Unfortunately, that didn't come about. I was pretty focused at that time on some photography and slideshow films that I was doing, and yeah, so I've got qualified for monetization on YouTube. So when there's a good dancer and they have a high amount of views like these girls had, that's what the view counts is what I've been after. And then with my family building project film, that's bringing in a lot of views. That's bringing in the most views consistently, speaking, like on an everyday basis. And also Matilda Gavriliani. She is being searched enough to where she's got so many followers on her Instagram. One of her Instagram pages, she's got like 77,000 followers, and so they're searching her. They're searching her on YouTube. They're searching her on Google. I know because I see the analytics on the films that I have of her, the photography I've done, and also some of the Georgian fashion designers' fashion shows on Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. And there's so much work and so much of a team effort going on there because, you know, you've got the makeup artist, the creative director, you've got the other photographers, you've got Vogue photographers, you've got the choreographers or the directors of the actual how they're running the runway walk, and then you've got the modeling agencies and the makeup artists and you know, the lighting people, the sound, the music. You got all these different professionals and artists and business people as well, you know, the investors and everyone else that's involved in that whole thing. And then, of course, the guests that make it possible, the guests that come from around the world, but especially, of course, the region and here in Georgia. So it's quite a phenomenon. But Matilda's got at least 77,000, maybe it's more than that, on one of her Instagram accounts. And so they are searching her. And I've got quite a collection of photos from a number of fashion weeks. Well, maybe it's like 3 or 4 over a period of maybe a year and a half or something like that. And so people, they search and they find what I have, what content that I have, what films, slideshows, fashion show event films that I've put up on YouTube. And because of her, they're constantly, you know, I'm getting about a 48-hour view count on a live update through my YouTube channel, and they're looking for Matilda. They are searching Matilda. It's quite phenomenal. And I met her on the last Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week here in Tbilisi. I was in a McDonald's. I was having a burger, and which is not something I do very often. And she came in, and she was so excited. I mean, she was visibly like so excited to see me there, because I think I had just done, well, I know I had just done the slideshow films of her and the photography on her, and a short clip from the Djaba Dia show. And she was in a formal dress at that show, and in the last show actually of that particular designer, she was both number 3 on the fashion runway, and she was number 23, and that is where the president of Georgia, Salome Zoriabashvili, was right there. And I have a fantastic photo of one of the models in a very grand, epic red dress, very formal red dress, and the president of Georgia is looking upon it, observing and enjoying the show. And so that's at the writer's house, and Matilda's. That's the first time I got a backstage photo. A couple of photographers there had encouraged me to go on and try to go backstage, and they also had pointed out Matilda. At least 3 different photographers, and I mean, experience. One of them with a lot of experience. One of them is very serious photographer with international experience as well. So more than just here in Georgia, and they were all talking about Matilda. And they got me backstage. I hadn't really had that interest to go backstage, but they got me to go backstage, and then I saw the value in that, especially on the second Fashion Week, which is back in November, almost a year ago. So, and I've switched topic because it says that Gavancha Bazali, I hope I've said her last name correctly, is showing on The View here, and so. Giving a little bit of background. So I had put together the photo slideshow on Matilda. I had talked about the one photo of the guys that were running and directing the model's walk, how the show would perform, where the models would walk and where, and Matilda's holding her finger out like this, pointing, and he's pointing. And so I titled it something like, "It appears that Matilda is, she's the boss." And another guy named Lasha here come out with a short film on her and another model, and the audio track has the lyrics to it talking about boss in the lyrics. After that photo that I put, and that caption to that photo was published, and that was between shows. So that photo for me is kind of historical when it comes to things Matilda, because that's how that played out. In another filmmaker here actually put those lyrics to it about boss in the audio track of that film he published of Matilda. So I actually added his film to the playlist. I have a playlist now on Matilda Gavrigliani on YouTube that I just created not so long ago. But I added that photo to that playlist. Not that photo, but that film to that playlist. So when I saw her at McDonald's, she didn't know I saw her. She came in, she saw me, and I looked over, and she was just visibly excited, just like this, and she was with about 9 or 10 people and was standing in line, and I made it a point to let her know that I knew that she was there, and so I spoke to her, and only then did her and 9 or 10 of her friends from her age on up to a couple of older women, and so finally we came over, and we shook hands, and she was very, very nice and professional, and told me a little bit about 2 or 3 things about her, and then I finished up and left. So we had about a 2 or 3 minute interchange there at McDonald's. But that's her. Actually had met her, and she said that her mother was thankful for the photos. She had supermodel status at that point. So when I had taken these photos of her, I had already published one. I think I already published one. I don't remember if I published the one on Annie Kashtaria or not. I don't remember. I don't know if I did Matilda first or Annie first. I would have to go in and look at the YouTube channel. But here's how it worked for me. I was seeing her friends and family like some of the photos that I had, so sometimes they'd like it, sometimes I'd like it back, like, hey, I know, I would just to do it to I know you're there, so they like it, and I like it, kind of a back and forth kind of thing like that. I saw that she was probably overseas in Spain or Italy or something, but I wasn't sure. And so I put the slideshow together because there was a lot of interest from these other photographers, and because I noted her from that, But I really didn't take a lot of interest and notice until her family and friends started liking the photos. But also, I believe she got picked up by another brand. They put her in the stores, like her photos were in the clothing stores with their brand. And some of her friends and family were really liking that, of course. And so I'd put this slideshow together, and intuitively I had this song come to mind. So very intuitively, as I was doing these things, I didn't know that she was in Dolce & Gabbana. Dolce & Gabbana's a fashion brand, an Italian luxury fashion house that's of $1.5 billion in value and assets, right? I mean, my God, that's a hell of that's big business, baby, right? So, and I only knew this about a week or so ago when I looked it up. I got to researching a little bit more because, quite frankly, we'd never heard of it or in the United States. I didn't growing up. I had no idea what that fashion brand is. It's very big over in this part of the world, I know, but I'd never heard of it till I came into this part of the world, which has been for 15 years at least, in this country at least 10. But still, you know, and I'm not talking about the first time I came here. If we consider the first time I came here, that would actually go back 16 years. I'm talking about the 10 years predominantly that I've spent in this country. So I'm looking at the light. The sun is now on my nose. It's not a Georgian nose, you can tell, right? I'm joking. Anyway, well, my father and I joked about his nose, so don't take me being mocking the Georgian people. My father we grew up joking about how I don't have his nose, which is more something like a Georgian nose, but my mother's nose is the nose that I have. Now you knows what I knows. Joking. It's a play on the English word knows and what we know. What we know what we know, and we know what we don't know, but we don't know what we don't know. This is a kind of a paraphrase of a quote by the known unknowns, former Defense Secretary of the United States, Donald Rumsfeld. Okay, I'm going to switch topics. I was on the plane with him once and his family, by the way. I talked with his daughters to my left. His son sat behind me, and he sat way up front. But at one point during the flight, he came back and was about 3 feet in front of me. Donald Rumsfeld, he made several trips over here to Georgia. He was awarded the Order of the Golden Fleece, which is sourced back to Mestia Swaneti. I know, I was up there and saw the archaeological museum. Let's talk about something more fun. Let's go back to Matilda. I'm not saying she's fun. I don't know. She looks like she could be fun. I'd say she's pretty... She looks like she's a fun girl in terms of her... The backstage, I was... there was a partner on Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, and they were kind of... I had wrote about the backstage thing. All I cared about is having the equal, like, thing, and, like, is it going to happen or is it not? And it, you know, like, more like, if it's going to go down, then let it go down, and, you know, like, how all that's going to work, you know, not... Consistency and equality is kind of what I was getting at. And I really didn't still care that much. I really didn't. It's not ever been my thing. I've got the press credentials. I can get backstage access, and but it's not been... I never had that interest. So there was a partner on Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, a aviation designer, military, secret military type stuff. A friend, the photographer, introduced me to this guy, and he happens to have a film studio here in a very professional film company here, or is partner of that. And so he urged me to go backstage. And there was another photographer, specific one, and another photographer I've known for a couple of years. He's very, very cool. And without those folks, I wouldn't have made it backstage. There's no way in hell. I didn't know where it was at. I don't speak much Georgian at all, nor do I read it. And I didn't know, I wouldn't have had... So if it would not have been for other photographers, I wouldn't have made it back there. And there was Matilda. It was another designer, and it was before the show Bichola, which turned out to be a very nice show. And that was the show that right next to me stood Sophie, the director, the creative director of Fashion Week. During the whole show, we were right together. And then there was Matilda on the runway. But just before that, I'd been in a kind of like the outside the dressing room in this case, because it was a different location in Tbilisi Concert Hall, and there was Matilda and took some photos. And she loves to have her scalp massaged or to give scalp massage. I noticed that not only there, but also on other, was it that backstage too, before Takeo, before her show? I'm not. Blickfinger. It was before Blickfinger. And I'm trying to remember, but I'd seen it on her Instagram too. I saw where she was actually giving the scalp massage to probably what looked to be another female model. And so she loved the back rub, the back massage, and the scalp massage. And she'll give the scalp massage. But this actually came up just about a month or so ago on Instagram. I actually saw her post that. She was giving another model a scalp massage. Well, so I have the backstage photos of her getting the back massage from another very beautiful model, blonde, very beautiful smile. That's the thing I remember about her. She's very kind, very sweet woman. Just gorgeous Georgian model and blonde. And that was on the show Bachola. So, but the Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week partner was also reminding me, we were talking about film suddenly, and I don't have a formal education in it. I have a web videography, 3 credits through American Military University Online back in summer autumn of 2015 that I took. And that's very basic, very basic. So we were talking a little bit about film and wanted to know what I was using, and he told me what he likes and things like that. And then he was really, really strongly urging me to go backstage. And I'm like, nobody's really invited me back there, and I'm just not that. It's not that big of a deal to me. And they said that it would depend up. It would be up to the designers whether we could go backstage or not. And I don't even speak Georgian and don't know the designers and that kind of thing like that. So he's like, well, really very, very strongly urged me to go backstage. So I went backstage, and I'm very glad that I went backstage. It's very, very cool. Also, Lizzie, Lizi, Lizzie, her mother used to be on my Facebook until she cropped my signature on one of her daughter's photos. Her daughter's Lizzie, the model. And I put on Facebook that if she ever did that again, I'd turn her into Facebook, because you can't take my work and strip the signature off and go and post it on your page. That made me angry, and so I have never seen her again on Facebook. But she used to be a big friend on Facebook when it come to her daughter's photos. But she's great. She's in a lot of shows. In fact, she's on the Writer House event with Dejaba Diasamidse, and I have a couple of great photos of her in Takeo. I know I have to go in and just listen to an audio to get all these names correct, and I should do that. That's how I should handle that, especially if I'm going to talk about it. So Lizzie is in purple, light purple, and then she's putting on these purple, long, like forearm covering gloves. This is a magick. This is actually silver, but I just let it go black because I have to keep it in. I have a friend that has one too. This is Kabbalistic magic, by the way, lunar Kabbalistic magic. This was made on the perfect time at the perfect hour. Actually, there was about a 4-hour window on one, maybe two. Yeah, with one day or 1 4-hour window is how it calculated it out. It has to be exactly when the moon is in a specific sign on a specific station. And that only happens about one time in a year for this particular lunar sphere, or what is called a Kabbalistic angel, or a lunar sphere angel. Of course, for every angel there is a demon. This is not demonic, this is angelic. And there is inscribed its real sigil, its real signature. Sigil is the same as the word signature, but in magic we call it sigil. And if you're very good, and if you're an adept, if you've really worked with it, or if you're really just talented, let's say you've done it many past lives, This is a topic that Matilda talked about, magic. She just made one quote before Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week in November 2017. It was actually October, I go back. It was before Fashion Week started, just right before Fashion Week started. She was in the dressing room in the makeup artist's chair, and there was a mirror there. It looked like she had a friend or an assistant with her. And she got the selfie out and the video going, and she said, looking very beautiful and looking into the mirrors and reflecting behind her, and she said, magic is everywhere. She said it just like that, very dramatic, very strong, very deep, and that was the end of the video clip. But man, she looked really gorgeous. So that's Matilda's quote on magic. Something else I noticed, she used to have a cover image on her personal Facebook page of a woman almost fully bare-breasted, but partially bare-breasted. I got in trouble with Facebook for reposting that same image. You know, the Facebook's very hard on me in some ways. Anyway, they wouldn't let me post it on my Facebook. They called it inappropriate for the community standards. So, but it was this woman holding a skull, and it reminded me of a saying we had from one of our famous military movies, where the guy's a drill instructor, U.S. military, which they're really hardcore, U.S. Marines. He died not so long ago, but he has this famous movie scene where he talks about skulking, and I had talked about doing that to someone that I saw at a nightclub here that came up and was doing this, you know, blocking me from dancing with the girl kind of thing. She came from a small city here called Abasha. She was going to university here, and she wanted to dance. She liked to dance, and she did dance with me again, but this guy was playing the role of, you know, protector or whatever, but he didn't even know, they didn't even really know each other. That's the thing, we don't like that kind of stuff. It's kind of weird for us, but I know it's kind of maybe connected to the region or the culture or this or that. But regardless of whatever it was, he was twice my size, and I went behind him, and I put my hand behind his neck, and I kind of held toward me a little bit, and then put my hand out to shake his hand, and I thought, I'm either going to shake hands and we will make peace, or I can drive my elbow and break your jaw if you are aggressive with me, because he kept blocking me and us from dancing. This is at the Senate Club. And as a trained and experienced black belt in Taekwondo, trained in Hapkido, and a fighter that has fought in one case, I initially attacked first 5 men that were set up to extort me. So I set them up to attack them and I took down 3, even after the fight. 3 were still down. I was down too, momentarily. There was a 6th one entered the fight, and I never saw him coming, actually. There was a pillar, and it was just last second, just 6'8". He was 6'8". The 60 witnesses, 62 from my local city. Secondhand witness Brian Kircher, who married into Kenneth Dake, the lawyer's family. That's a hell of a fight. That's a hell of a fight. I attacked first, and was feared after that. So I don't want to be fearful. I don't want to fear anyone, and I don't want anyone to fear me. It's just the fact that, you know, I'm not the person to assume that we'll be pushed around. Because even in Ukraine and Kiev, when the police and I had an encounter there on a situation that the U.S. Embassy was directly involved by phone. They were on the mobile phone. They bashed down the door. They were going to ram it down, and the embassy was saying, "Do not open that door, sir." I said, "Hey, if I don't open that door, they're going to open it for me. There's a battering ram out there. There's 12 cops." They bashed that door down. They came in, and even though I was being calm and had done nothing wrong, the Sasha with a strap-on machine gun, short-barrel machine gun, and a flak jacket came up and shoved me. You know, he just shoved me, and I shoved him right the back, man. I shoved him right back, and never set foot in a jail cell in Ukraine, never. I have more training than 99% of all military. And when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, it's likely that I have more training than even special operations forces, typically. Now, there's going to be a lot more of those guys that probably have the training that I have, or a little bit more, maybe, probably. They're going to be in there, but a lot of them won't have the amount of training that I have. Not because I was trained by a U.S. military instructor, also South Korean military instructor, Hapkido and Taekwondo both. And what's more important than all that, because I've seen black belts, I know black belts that got their asses kicked. You have to have it here. If you don't have it here, if you don't have the mentality, and you don't have the willpower, if you don't have the offensive mindset, quite frankly, if you're not ready to take someone out before they take you out, if that's necessary, and I don't even like to talk that way, then you can be a trained black belt and get your ass kicked, especially against somebody that's psychotic. And that's exactly what happened to one of our black belts that was working in security at a mental hospital. So you've got to have that mentality that is talked about very well in Ben Cooley, the fighting mindset. He's a trainer in handguns, pistol shooting expert. Ben Cooley, as in Cooley, and Jerry Peterson, SCARS, SCARS, U.S. Naval Special Operations System of Self-Defense. Now I'm aware of Sistema out of Russia and a couple of different instructors. I first had Sistema's DVD instruction videos back in 1999, which is about the time I read that Michael Horn on the Fly blog had invited those, help in the process of inviting and urging, getting those guys to come over to the United States. And they produced the DVD instructional video. One of the instructors. Anyway, with all due respect to everyone else that might be in the martial arts community, past, present, or future, I know there's people that are better than me, and I know it's been 25 years since I had that particular fight, for example, but I've had a lot more fights, and there were some fights I never even had to touch somebody, never had to strike them back, let's say that. Never had to kick or punch or throw somebody or something like that, or take somebody down or joint lock somebody or something like that, but there were several fights like that. And just, like when I broke that beer bottle into two pieces out of the guy's hand. I've told this story many times with a spinning hook kick, but I also broke Ryan Thurber's nose with a spinning hook kick. It's not likely that that's going to happen today. I'm 50 years old, so it's not likely that I'm going to stand up and, for example, if you're standing there with a beer bottle and you're ready to start some trouble with me, and I'm in a bar, for example, which is where this took place 25 or so years ago, it's not likely that I'm going to do that right now. But so with all reality, in touch with reality and the realness, I do have more training and experience than 99.9% of any police, security police, or military operatives are going to have. However, I'm clearly aware and keenly aware that I am 50 years old, and that it has been some number of years since I've actually done that type of thing. But I'm going to say that when I've had some fights where I was attacked first, and it was absolutely necessary to do self-defense, that I almost killed the guy, and he ended up in the hospital. And I flipped the girl that she's on my Facebook. Her name is Ashley, and without even thinking, because of the Hapkido training that I had, I flipped her up into the air and on her back. And I mean, no exaggeration, a perfect, beautiful Hapkido move. Flipped her up into the air and onto her back safely out of the way, while the guy went to the hospital and almost died the next day. Because he assaulted me first, he had stolen prescription medication and absolutely vital, necessary medication from my friend's daughter. And her boyfriend and I were very good friends, and we went to try to get this medication back. And this guy was stealing from my house too. He had stole several things from my house and from others. He had an addiction problem, and so when I was coming to the house, he punched me right in the damn jaw. So it was ethical, justified, and necessary self-defense on my part, absolutely. And when the girl stepped in between in the situation, then you can understand why the Hapkido training just came in without thinking automatically. So back to the story with Matilda. Magic is everywhere. She said, looking into the selfie video that she was taking, and in front of the makeup mirror there, and she had this skull. But I said on telling this story at Senate Club, because again, now that you know a little bit about my background, a little bit about me, When I put my hand behind this guy was a lot bigger than me at that Senate Club here in Tbilisi. Here in Georgia, it was over in Tbilisi. I'm in Borjomi. Put my hand behind his neck and pulled him in and put my hand out to shake his hand, thinking we're either going to make peace, we're going to be friendly, or I can do a dozen different things just with this one arm right here. I can come swing through and break your jaw. I can come back and strike you here, and so on and so forth, or maybe come up or down, just with the elbows alone. Interestingly enough, when I talk about this topic and put up some things on some video that I have on doing some elbow strikes on a Wave Master, Vadim Sterov in Russia, a Russian Special Forces trainer, Sistema trainer, come up with a video just right after that with elbow training. So he's got a beautiful, excellent video on elbow strikes and elbow training, and he refers to this types of moves with, well, one is like with the punch, or like with an elbow punch, elbow. You know, he's like got a 3-step sequence with that, and it's something like, you know, elbow, you know, or punch. It's like 1 2 3 1 2 3. You know, it's like, and then, you know, it's like a 3-step move with the elbow, 2 elbows and a punch in there. It's pretty cool. Anybody can go look that up on YouTube. But he calls it murderous. So and that's what we were taught too. We were taught that they can be deadly. So you have to be very careful, because like I said, when that guy come up and just dancing with the girl at the club, that's all. She wanted to dance with me, I wanted to dance with her, it was no problem. But for some reason in this guy's mind, he was going to try to stop it, which is something that's not so unusual in this country for some reason, mentality. But I had him set up to where I offered the friendship handshake, which is an American thing, but I was ready to come through with elbow strikes if necessary. Anyway, I don't like to talk about that kind of stuff, but it comes up because it has to do with the Matilda, her cover image. Of course, I have practiced voodoo and magic. For magic itself, magic alone, and various styles of magic or schools of magic, but I love Kabbalistic magic the most, angelic magic, but since the last 20 years, off and on, especially. The first 2 years is every single day. Exercises, developmental exercises, and things like that for that. So, but voodoo, voodoo sorcery, not the religion, the sorcery. It's quite different. Hoodoo is from the African traditional religions, but it's derived strictly the magic, the sorcery. And there's quite a bit of difference actually between high magic and sorcery. In fact, Franz Bardon in Initiation into Hermetics, but specifically in the Practice of Magical Evocation, talks very definitively about the difference between high magic and sorcery. It's quite a difference, in a sense, and there's a vitally important difference if you accept any of the teachings of Hermetics, especially and specifically as Franz Bardon explains it in The Practice of Magical Evocation, which is, I think, one of the best books of all time on magic, the magic of evocation. Or The Practice of Magical Evocation, sorry. That's the exact title. And that's one of the books I sold for years on eBay, because I believe it was so much of a treasure on that topic as a magician, as an occult magician, not a stage magician. And there's quite a interesting couple of master classes on stage magic, by the way. Some of the best stage magicians in the world. There's also an excellent video on stage magicians, that like a spiritual world. Magicians prove a spiritual world exists. If you see that video on YouTube, which is about an hour or two long, it's presented by somebody that's like a Christian with a Catholic or something kind of background, Catholic background. They blame it all on demons, which is really only part of the story, because anybody that's doing real magic, as a real occult magician, whatever style or school of magic they may be going after, it's well known and understood that it's ridiculous to blame all of that on demonic, because there is an entire other half of almost every system that is angelic. So, and most real magicians will teach the gray magic, which is that, well, there's angels and demons and there's a balance. And if you need to call on a light or on the dark, in fact, it's not good to do only one or the other. And what Bardon would go further to say is don't ever pact with a negative entity. There's no need to, because you have the divine Adam Kadmon. You have the like, I like the way that the Meyer case talks about it in spiritual terms. You have a fragment of the creation, the spiritual element of the creational, of creation itself. You have an element of that in you as a fragment of the human spirit. You have a fragment of the creational spirit within you, the human. And so that's part of the universal oneness. It's all in one. We are gods and goddesses, so to speak. We are human beings with part of the fragment of creation within us. In fact, two human beings, as in man and woman, come together, traditionally speaking, and then they create another human or other humans. It's part of creation, the creational. So it's the spirit, as above, so below, and all the other hermetic axioms and hermetic teachings that can be looked at in explaining what is life. So when I had that experience at the Senate Club, this is a long way around to the same place coming back home here in the story, which is that I said the next time somebody would do something like that, I would, if he would have done something, I would have skull into eternity, is how I said it. So it was kind of a funny thing that when Matilda was putting that at that time back then, she had that cover image on her personal Facebook back in those days. That was about, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago or something. I thought it was quite funny because it reminded me of these stories. And I had also, at one point, there was this kind of like meme with the interesting font, and the meme that I had posted back into was Captain Skull. I'm careful how I'm talking here, because I have neighbors and I don't want to. I don't know if they know American profanity or not, but I don't want to find out in a negative sense, and I don't want to be rude. So not in this location, because there's some new neighbor here too. So but Captain Skull, the F word, right? So I had posted that too. So it just very much reminded me of that in a sense. And I thought it was interesting lately that Matilda had the Instagram with the photo with the snake. And so did Bidzina Ivanishvili's son, had the photo with the snake, albino. Yeah. I had a film, it's still up on YouTube, at the family's, my mom's nursing home, the residential care facility, back in 2010, I believe. I consider that to be a result, in my opinion, in my experience, of one of the greater acts of magic I'd ever done. It was kind of a freelance magic, in the sense that as a trained magician, I'd trained for 2 years solo, but still did the training, and called upon the creation, called upon the normal spiritual forces that I would work with, all positively speaking. And I just wanted to have the manifestation within 24 to 48 hours of something grand, of something majestic. Now, this is when I'm out under the Milky Way, the starry sky at night. There is this creation, there is everything. And there was an actual UFO. Now, it could have been military craft, it could have been who knows what. But what I do know is that it was stationary for such a period of time that it would be impossible to call it a jetliner. There's no way in hell it was a jetliner. I do not believe at all it could have been a helicopter, because typically you would hear and maybe even see the different types of lights to very quickly be able to identify a helicopter. And it would be highly unusual unless it was a military helicopter. Even then, that didn't appear to be, in the middle of the night, a military helicopter. It was kind of bright light, and it moved in such a way that it was able to be stationary for, you know, maybe it was like a minute, maybe it was like 45 seconds, but absolutely stationary, and then to be able to kind of, you know, fly away, as if though it had been there to observe. And but I was doing this freelance magic, and I wanted something to manifest within 24 to 48 hours, something really wonderful. Ken's Reptiles show, Ken came through Marshall, Missouri, and called to several of the churches and wanted to ask if they wanted to have the reptile show at their churches, and no one was really up for that, apparently. And so they called my mom, and he came to my mother's nursing home. So you have the albino snakes, you have the snake, you have a 400 years old, I think it's how old it can get. These pythons and these other snakes and these turtles and this crocodile, you know, on a leash in the yard, and I'm out there taking photos, and he's telling some stories to teach some lessons about life lessons, and about our society. He had just spent time in Russia. He had been in Russia for about 9 months on tour with these reptiles there. So these reptiles had already been in Russia. So I had the snake. I don't know if I can find the photo or not. I haven't been able to find it yet. It might be out there on some search engines, images search somewhere. But there's a snake that I had around my neck at that point, and it's a photo that I had on my Facebook for several years. So that's kind of how I relate to when I saw this cover image that Matilda had back then of the woman partially bare-breasted holding the skull, because that was kind of it's kind of symbology in certain schools of magic, or in certain covers of books on magic or voodoo especially, or some of the music video like Godsmack, you know, on their voodoo, or on the other one, that I Stand Alone, that song, that music video, where just within the first minute or two there's this mystical looking, almost tribal woman that says the prophecy is upon us. Because I've done some prophecy, I've done some predictions with astrology and with my intuition, and I've published things that were going to happen before they happen, and published those things in advance. So that's a little bit about the background on that stuff. It was just very prescient to see her on the Fashion Week come out with that short video clip saying that, you know, magic is everywhere. You know, it's just so, that was pretty cool. So yeah, but when I first saw her, she was so excited. She was so excited. But she said she was very professional. She's very together and down to earth. But she was just almost like, she was just like so excited when she saw me. And she didn't know that I saw that about her, but I saw that about her. And that's why I waited a little bit before, when I saw her in line, then I called her out. Only waited for a little bit. But she said her mother thanked me for these photos. And then I saw her about a day or two later, and she had the tattoo of the snake. And she said, "Michael, do you want to see my tattoo?" And it was for a show that she was in on Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week there at Tbilisi Concert Hall. So she had a hoodie, and she took it and showed me. She had a tattoo of the snake that you will see on the show if you look at the photos that she has. I think I've published one of, I mean, I didn't publish it. I didn't take the photo. I think I did put the photo on one of my cover images and maybe put there of her like that. Anyway, that's a little bit of the background. So just intuitively, I didn't know she was in Milan. I don't think I knew. I was putting the slideshow together. When I was walking down to the cafe, walking past Mushtari Park, walking down past Dinamo Stadium, it just came to my mind intuitively, because I'm thinking, okay, I'm putting this slideshow together on the photography I have on Matilda Gavrigliani, and I didn't know she was becoming supermodel, which she was right around that time. And I thought, you know, this is a really great song. Love Will Never Do Without You, Janet Jackson. And I love that song. And back probably when I was around her age at that time, I'd have to go back and look up the exact published date, like when Janet came out with that song, Janet Jackson's Michael Jackson's sister. And I'd have to go back and find out like when exactly that was released. But it was such a lovely, lovely, a wonderful artistic music video as far as the cinematography or the film itself, the artistic way of creating and presenting the visuals in that video is just mind-blowing to me. And of course the beat, the music, the lyrics, the whole nine. And I thought this would be very, very cool to put to that slideshow. And then when I was doing the one on Annie Kashtaria, it's a little bit of the cafe on that one because I was hearing Madonna on the music television that was playing in the Gusti Cafe. And so I put one of Madonna's songs that I heard there to Annie Kashtaria's slideshow, the film that I have on her. There's two, and so it's the first one that I published on her. 3.5 or 3, I think 3 years at that point, 3 years of photography on Mercedes-Benz Fashion Weeks and also on Tbilisi Fashion Week. So then with Matilda, a second slideshow film with a video clip of her presenting the formal dress of Dejaba Diasimidse, I put Madonna's Who's That Girl, that audio soundtrack to that photography that I had on her, and the Dejaba Diasimidse, where she's actually in the film clip that I put in of her presenting the black formal, very formal dress, and she's just stunning in that fashion show, in that presentation. And that fashion show alone, the film that I published on the entire show, has quite a few views. For those fashion show event films that I've taken video clips out of or taking photography on and put into a fashion show events film, for that it's quite a few views, and I think it's approaching maybe 3,000. It's well over 2,000 views, so that's quite a few for what I'm used to. And in comparison to some of the other Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week films on fashion shows as well, not every show gets that view count. But so it's a fantastic designer and some fantastic shows that they've done on Fashion Week, Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. So seeing that Gavanch come on here, it's showing in the view that she's watching or was watching, and that's a little bit about, we're talking about dancers, it's a little bit about the modeling and the fashion world here in terms of what I've been able to participate in or create or co-create or capture as a events filmmaker or as a photographer. That's a little bit about that, and that's a little bit about Matilda. Why is she on my mind? Because she's beautiful, but she's still getting the views every day. They're searching her, and they're finding some of her on my YouTube channel. But there's so much involved in that, in those shows. So many efforts, so much a team effort. And on the family building project, those are bringing in the most views. That one film, I think it should be on track. I think it will be 4 years later on December 26, 2020, exactly 4 years since I published that film. Actually filmed it and photographed it as we erected the frame of that steel frame home and tool shed, you could say, on October of 2016. But it'll be exactly 4 years since I published it on December 26th. So the day after Christmas, the U.S. Christmas this year, on 2020, it should be on track to have at least 100,000 views. A little more, a little less. 100,000 views. About every 48 hours, it's getting maybe 100 to 200 views. A little more, a little less. In about a 28-day period, it gets more or less 2,000 views. So that's where really views. As far as one single video, there is one with the dancers at a nightclub. That nightclub no longer exists. It's got around close to 145,000 views. It doesn't get this type of views anymore. Secondly, one of the search terms, to be quite frank, that they were looking for working girls in the club. This is a whole very different topic, very different thing, and the club doesn't exist anymore, and that's not something that I knew until about a week or two ago. When I was studying the analytics, I'm like, where are the people that are coming to this video? Because they can come to the video from external sources, from Facebook, from Google, from YouTube search, and other ways they could be coming into that video. So there's a number of different ways that people can find these videos, and the analytics is an attempt to find out how are they finding out about it, how are they coming to this, how did they get here, where did the views come from. And so I only knew about a week or two ago, when I looked at the keywords on the reach part of the analytics, that some of the men were searching from, especially from some of the Islamic countries in the wider region of this area of the world, they are actually searching for working girls at the nightclub. So that film in total, though, is not drawing the type of views in total and interest that it had back in the years previous. Because, as I said, the club doesn't even exist anymore. It's not even any longer there. And certainly at least not by that name. And I don't even think by the same design or anything like that. So that's quite a different deal. But it has the 145,000 views, I think. And it is what it is. That's not something that I planned. That was actually the first fashion model show that I went to. It was too dark. I got there a little bit late. And I say it was too dark. It was on the fashion show itself. It was a bit dark. But when I go into the analytics and I find what the people that were there, as far as the percentage that were coming in by search terms, searching for it on YouTube, they were searching for working girls. But that is one of the highest view counts that I have, is because of the dancer part, the part where the two girls are dancing on the bar itself. And I still remember that night. But that was actually one of the first fashion shows that I attended and that I filmed in Tbilisi. It's a lot of views for me, for my YouTube channel. It's the highest view count. But the second is the building project. But in terms of what's happening now and the most views now, the most active is that. It's still that film. It's still the steel frame building. The erecting of the steel frame building. But second to that is mainly the films on Matilda. There's Nimson, and then sometimes the photo slideshows. The one I put together on Annie Kashtaria has gotten quite a few views since September 11, in terms of every 48 hours. It's approaching somewhere closer to 500 views. It's over 400 views right now. There for a few days, the film that put up, kind of reworked some of the, on Mariam Monogatse, that has had for some days there. So that gives a little bit of background about that. Also, just going down to the park, I think I got like 14 views or something. So that one actually moved up into, because some of these other ones are getting like 15, 14 in like a 2-day period or something like that. But that builds up over the course of some weeks or the year or something like that. So that's how that came about. So there you go. There's a little bit about fashion, photography, from my perspective, my experience, my journey around the world, and from a film that comes out of Missouri to the film that comes out of Tbilisi, and that's why I moved into position, and I'll try to customize my YouTube page a little bit more, the subscriber page or the opening page there, the home page, so to speak. That's why I moved these films into the positions they are, because they're already bringing in those views. People obviously are engaged in get engaged or searching those films, or there's suggested videos. There are suggested videos to those films, and so that's why I moved those into the position that I moved them into. Also, the entire playlist on a Nano, because that's been every time that there's been 3 photo sessions I've had with a Nano, and it's just, that's incredible chemistry. And she's such a fantastic model with those playlists. Those films are all right there. I put one section there, so I might work with that a little bit more. Annie Kashtaria, the same with, I think, one of the films. She's on several of the cover images of some of the fashion show events too. Not only the couple of slideshows that I put together on her, actually it's like 3 different slideshows at least on her. So I consider her the classic look in terms of what my perspective, my experience, because she's one of the first models that I took notice of coming onto Fashion Week the first time ever, Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. And in the blue, where she's wearing the blue dress, the blue design, and I made the cover image in triple collage of her, maybe quadruple, not triple, quadruple, I think, a photo collage as the image for that show, and basically as the cover image for my playlist of fashion show event films on Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week Tbilisi. So for me, she is always going to be the beginning of my experience with that, and it was a wonderful, very magical, very fantastic experience on Fashion Week. And she's in so many of the fashion show event films that I have in the playlist that I've either taken the photography and or short video clips of part of the films on Fashion Weeks. She's always, for me, a very, very big icon, very, very big part of that experience, and part of that life memory, and always will be, you know, because that's the first time that I came in to Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, and she had such an impression coming across that runway floor, and then the outfit that she had was just super, super, super. Okay, I better get down to the park. It is such a gorgeous day here. It really is. The weather is perfect. It's just a tad bit cool. Not bad. I'm just only wearing, you know, this top, and I'm going to go down to the national park, the Central Park, the historical Central Park. I've seen it written up different ways. That's why I use different terms for that. So you want to be sure to check out my Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week playlist on YouTube. Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week Tbilisi, Michael Vanderpool photos, Matilda Gavriliani supermodel playlist, or my photos slideshow on Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week Tbilisi with Matilda Gavriliani, or Annie Kashtaria playlist that I have on her, the slideshow photos that I have on her, the fashion photography, the fashion photos, the runway highlights, the honor collection of photography or photos that I have of Annie Kashtaria, queen of the fashion runway, where she's actually on the runway. Matilda Gavriliani's also from the same Mestia Swanetti. I don't know about Mestia, but she's from Swanetti. Also, Miriam Managadse is from Swanetti. And I have a tourism film on Mestia Swanetti, exactly and specifically, where we're actually in the back of a Jeep for a part of that film. And doing the blogging, you know, capturing what would be considered one of the most beautiful places in the world, and filming there and taking photos of the mountains. And there's at least an hour or more of photos of the amazing mountain scenery there, the mountains, and some of the most beautiful places in all of the world that I've taken photos at, and some from the ski lift. We're actually going up and coming back down on this ski lift. There is a cafe or restaurant or bar up there that is tops in the world. It's world class as far as the mountain scenery there. Coming back down the ski lift. And that was also one of the, in August, just last month, out of 1,200 films that I have on YouTube, that particular film on travel, on tourism, that I have in terms of a photo slideshow, in terms of film, was one of the most watched in terms of watch hours, in terms of watch time. So people were coming to that film, whether it was by suggested video or by other search terms, like most beautiful place in the world, like drive through Swaneti. This is how they were finding that film, some of them, a certain percentage. And it's because people were thinking about coming to Swaneti. And a lot of people did. And they always will. It's that fantastic. So, again, the analytics tells me part of the story of why and when people were coming, because it's August and they were dreaming of coming, or they were wanting to come, or they were researching or looking where to travel to, and that's my film. But that happens to be one of the most beautiful places in the world. I love Colorado in the USA as well. That's one of my personal favorites, by the way, because I've spent a lot of time there. I've taken at least 8 or 9 trips, road trips into Colorado, either with someone else or alone. That's how much I love Colorado. I've got 2 exes that live in Colorado. They're both remarried, and they live in Colorado. But I love Colorado. It's my favorite place on the planet. And only in summer, only, which for me would be about 2, maybe 3 months maximum. And I'd probably end up spending time in Missouri or Arizona, maybe with a little short time is going to Nevada. I think you can do erotic film work in Nevada and be within the law and all that kind of stuff like that. I'm not sure. It's something I'm going to research. Nevada is really, really hot. And it's not the place I'd want to spend much time in, actually. But Arizona is for snowbirds. Arizona is where Sedona is, and I'm an astrologer, and it's one of the best places in the United States outside in a normal time. In a normal time, it's one of the most visited places in the United States for astrology and metaphysics and things like that. And I've spent 2 trips in Sedona, at least, and I've camped outside of on the flat rocks just north of Sedona, about 15 minutes or so, and happens to be where Rich Dad Poor Dad Robert Kiyosaki is broadcasting from. Him and his wife is Arizona, although he's originally from Hawaii and spends a lot of time in Hawaii, apparently. Japanese American. So with that, I'll close this video out, and I happen to be in one of the most beautiful places in the world right now at this very moment, and right behind me is Borjomi National Park. Mountain streams. You can hear the, you can visit, you can go down to the Crown Plaza Hotel, 9 Beryatashvili Street, and it is world class. Really, no exaggeration, and absolutely world class. Those guys down there, super nice, super nice. Georgian security, Georgian staff, incredibly nice. I needed to go to the ATM. I'm not even staying there. I just needed to go in and use their ATM. They even walk with me and show me the way. A second guy is ready to ask me to help me anyway. I was amazed. It's like I'm not even a guest here at your hotel. I'm not even officially. I'm not even here except to use the ATM. Super nice people. So really, really super nice people. And the exterior, they're keeping it clean. This guy was out there yesterday power washing the back of the one of the entrances on this side of it, power washing it down. Oh, and they made me temperature check before I could come in the hotel too, which I was very mindful of. I'm like, what are they doing here? I don't want to come in here unless you guys, are taking care of things. And man, they did. They checked me right there, Crown Plaza. So I will go and hopefully get some more film, and we'll see how this publishes. Obviously, it's showing that it's live streaming. So if it's live streaming, it's not an issue with the Wi-Fi. But I'm wondering, like, if it's the amount. Anyway, we'll figure out this Wi-Fi thing and how it's working or not pretty soon, because I didn't have any problem on the laptop, but this will be the first time I actually try to upload something sizable in terms of live stream. I'll be working with video clips and photography and film later today is my intention, so we'll see how it works. Have a nice day. Thanks for watching. Gavanch, I completely changed topic and direction and went into the fashion and photography and what I know a little bit about Matilda and things like that, and the view counts and the analytics and YouTube and photography and travel and beautiful places, beautiful women, beautiful girls, and anyway, enjoy.